There we go. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today. My name is Leigh Cuen. As she said, I'm a journalist at Coindesk. And this topic we're going to talk about today, I'm really excited about. It's really close to my heart because I started my career working in Palestinian refugee camps and also working with African asylum seekers. And I know that you're also, Joséphine Goube here today, CEO of Techfugees, is equally passionate about technology and human rights issues. So I'm just really excited. Can you tell me a little bit about why it is that you're so interested and passionate about refugee issues? What got you interested in this to start with?
Hi, everyone. I'm CEO of Techfugees. You might have heard of the name. We're basically a non-profit organization based out of London. And we are coordinating the commitment of the technology community to the needs of refugees. And we do this with the refugees. A little bit about where I'm from. I'm French. I'm from the north of France. So if you're familiar with France, you might know Saint-Tropez in the south. Well, I'm from the opposite, the north. And in the north, you have Calais. And I don't know the ones of you who know Calais. It's an informal refugee, migrant, they call it, because I'll go into details about that. But migrant camp that has made the headlines in Europe of how 2,000, 5,000, and 10,000 migrants were living in slums at the heart of Europe, trying to cross to go to the UK. So I was born there, and for all my childhood, I've been witnessing migrants in Calais trying to cross the UK, going on lorries and dying. Today, they're from Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria. Back when I was a kid, they were from Yugoslavia. In the 2000s, they were from Sudan. So it just changed the nationalities. But the pain and suffering happening there has always been. And I'm not saying that when I was a kid, I was in Calais every day seeing those migrants. It's just that growing up and seeing a disparity over me with my parents in a car, going from France to the UK without any trouble, and being surrounded with people running around, trying to get on lorries, was scary, but also confusing. Why some human beings are allowed to cross when some others are not, and they're going to risk their lives. So this is where it's coming from. And I would add to that that when I studied in London and I saw Theresa May implementing new changes on immigration for students, sort of kicking them out of the UK as the moment they were graduated, it wasn't clear to me how someone who paid 3 times the fees I paid, because I'm a European, so I don't pay the same university fees as any Chinese, Indian, Nigerian that goes to LSE, London School of Economics, would be kicked out because of new immigration laws. So I just felt a profound injustice of how where you're born is going to set what access and rights you have in this world. So this is where it's coming from.
Yeah, it's really good to know, and it's interesting. I think that sometimes it can feel really removed, refugee issues, from our daily lives. According to UN statistics, there are 65 million displaced persons around the world today. That's roughly the entire population of the UK. Can we take a show of hands of the room? How many people here have ever been to London? Awesome. So next time you go to London, I want you to look around and imagine every single human being there is a displaced person, because the entire population of the UK is basically what we're talking about here. It's a lot of people. So can you tell me a little bit about, I think when we talk about refugee issues, we usually think about it as an ethical issue, a humanitarian issue. Can you tell me a little bit about how this entire population actually impacts a wide range of economic and social dynamics?
Yeah. So you say 65 million people, and at Techfugees we say 65 million journeys, because they don't speak the same language. Those 65 million people, they're not based in the same geographies. They have not flown away for the same reason. Their forced migration might be by war, but it might be by climate, or it might be by homophobia. And so they don't speak the same language, they don't have the same age, they don't go through the same journey. So it's when we talk about refugees and we see it as an emergency and as a humanitarian issue, it is, but partially. It is also that, and I'm sure everybody knows here because some of you probably more knowledgeable than me in refugee statistics, but 80% of refugees are living in cities outside of camps. So it's interesting to me how the media has enforced a trait stressed on they are white men, not white men, brown men, dirty, poor, crossing the boundaries, crossing the barriers, like the frontiers, when that's that maybe 10 minutes of their lives that is captured in camera. Whereas you've been in Israel and you've seen the situation. I've been in Calais and I've been in Paris at the moment. They just, 2 days ago, they've expelled 1,200, they called migrants, from a camp within the city of Paris. So it affects cities, it affects wider geographies than we believe. And to park refugees as some kind of identity is a problem too, because you don't stay a refugee all your life. It's part of your journey, but then you want to come out of it. So we have to see the refugee challenge not as a humanitarian issue. It's like climate change, it's happening. It's a wider issue of society and how we're going to make our society able and capable to absorb the flow of people that are going to be forced to migrate. I think the World Bank has given the number of more than 140 million climate refugees by 2050. Could be people from Bangladesh, but could be also people from Florida. And in the US, you had this forced migration, climate change, well, not climate change, but climate migration back in Texas and in the plains in the 1930s. It's the biggest migration records in the history of America, so you know what I'm talking about. So let's not put the refugee topic into just a humanitarian issue, and let's not fix people as refugee all their life. I think that's the point I'm trying to get across.
All right, awesome. So, I mean, you pointed out it involves climate issues, it involves urban issues, it involves issues of war and peace, pretty much anything where humans are living. You also mentioned, I mean, it's really important that a lot of them are living in urban environments and maybe not fulfilling this ideal we have of this impoverished, extremely disconnected person. As was said earlier today, a lot of them have access to mobile phones. How do you feel like that changes the situation in terms of the main challenges some refugees face in their daily lives?
I feel like I have experts here that are very knowledgeable about refugees, but maybe I'm wrong. So I'd just like to ask a question to the audience is, who of you think that less than 50% of refugees are living in areas where there's 2G or 3G access? Raise your hand if you think that less than 50. Okay. Less than 60? Less than 70? Okay, less than 80. So who believes, said another way, that more than 85% of refugees are living in areas where they have access to 2G, 3G? I see you're experts. So yeah, it's 87%. And the problem is not the access, it's the money to access that 2G and 3G. So indeed, it's important that now they have in their hands something, the mobile phone, something which the technology of the mobile phone is something more powerful than the technology that put the human on the moon, to try to think of ways to deliver services through that technology, because they have it in hands. It doesn't mean, and obviously and naturally, it doesn't mean that if they have the smartphones, they know how to use it, and that they use it like in the West more broadly as a tool to optimize. But it's for sure, from what we've seen on the ground in Greece, in Jordan, in different places, especially the kids, that they use it to find information and to connect to contacts that can help them in their daily lives. And if they're from Africa, even more to get financial transaction going. So we have to look at usage of the way refugees use that technology and go away from, yes, they have the mobile phone, yeah, sure, but what is their usage, I think?
Can you tell me a little bit about usage? And maybe not for mobile phones, but let's talk about blockchain technology and also self-sovereign identity technology. What kind of impact have we already seen on the ground with programs that are working?
Okay. I won't talk about something I don't know, so I'll just talk about the WFP program that I know pretty well. And I'll talk a little bit about money. It's a Finnish test of using blockchain for refugees being resettled there. But what I've seen from the WFP is that they're using a private blockchain to provide cash, sort of, to the refugees. Now, the refugees don't see anything because it's in Zaatari, it's for 10 to 50,000 people, and they're trying to go to 100,000 people in Jordan. Refugees don't see it at all that the blockchain is here because all they do is scan their eyes and get things paid at the food store. But it has enabled the World Food Programme to actually save money. Because before that, they were using the local vendors. Now that they're using on blockchain, they're becoming sort of a bank themselves, and they have everything tracked privately because it's not a public blockchain, and they're able to deliver the cash automatically much faster than if they were going to vendors. What I'm saying here is, first, they're not using a public blockchain, they are using a private blockchain. So why? They wanted to experiment in a safe place, but it's not using the potential of the blockchain at full, in some sense. And I'm trying to be like positively, constructively criticizing here. I'm not trying to say that it's bad. I think you have to sort of innovate in a safe environment when you're dealing with vulnerable population. The second thing is, we learned from that experiment is they're able to scale, yes. And what is really the benefit is the money they're saving. It's not that refugees own their data. And I know that they're doing that test and prototype because they want to, on the longer term, on the longer journey, give refugees their ownership of data. But we're not there yet. So the sort of beneficiary of this today, the benefits is the World Food Bank. And it's the refugee because the money saved will be given back to the refugees. But we need to really look at what are the experiments today being done on the ground and not tomorrow. Basically, what I'm just trying to say is I go every day on the ground with refugees, and it's just frustrating to see so many people talking about projects and proof of concept. And really, if you have a proof of concept, please go on the ground, do it. Do it safely. I think that needs to be done in a more ethical ways. But please go on the ground and stop talking about your idea and coming to me asking, what do you think of my idea? Please go on the ground and do it.
Let's address that. I mean, I think that's really important, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room. You and me are both relatively privileged white women talking about issues that predominantly impact people from developing nations. How do you, as someone who runs a global company, manage cohesion and while also keeping insights from the ground up and solutions from the ground up from these diverse communities rather than trying to force a one-size-fits-all tech solution onto diverse situations and peoples?
So,
Sorry, it's a hard one.
No, we're privileged, for sure. So we're a non-profit organization, right? We're a non-profit international organization. We were born out of just organically out of a meetup created by Mike Butcher, the editor of TechCrunch, in September 2015 in London. We never planned to be an organization, and it came from the people, because after Mike Butcher posted on social media, it's just 2,000 people that joined the call in 48 hours, and then 300 people that showed up, from CEOs to refugees to NGOs, wanting to work together on creating innovative solutions for the refugees. It was at the time the picture of the little baby came on Europeans, I guess, publications, newspapers. And there was a lot of emotions. The way we do things at Techfugees, for you to understand, is we don't create the technology. That's what I want to make clear, because I get a lot of people coming to us and be like, can you create this? I'm like, no, we are coordinating a community and the engagement, the commitment of that community. And what we create is spaces for refugees and non-refugees to meet. So you have the answer to your question is, we don't do a hackathon if we don't have refugees part of the hackathon. We're not here to talk about the problems of refugees. We have the refugees speaks for themselves. And the second thing we enforce is if you're going to create that technology for refugees, so you do it with them, that's great, but don't use them as feedback people, as your typical user, and then never give him the feedback of how you built the technology thanks to his feedback first. Like, I see a lot of people collecting data of refugees, asking refugees to give data, but they never say then what they did with their data, and it's important they do. The second thing is, you need to empower the refugees with what you do. So now I'm going to be a bit more concrete, so we stop talking about in concepts and all of this. We have several people, entrepreneurs in our community, that built a link between refugees and non-refugees, going on their strength, on the strength of refugees. They chose refugees that were in camps in Lebanon that speak a good Arabic and also probably good English. And they've linked them with people that want to learn Arabic in the world. Those entrepreneurs, companies are called Paper Planes, Natakalam, Shadowbox. They're in different countries, but they all had the same idea. The refugees know how to speak Arabic and they could teach the world Arabic. What it does for the refugee is three things. Yes, it connects them to the world and so they feel seen and visible and not forgotten. That's great. When you're stuck in a camp, that's something probably life-changing. The second thing that it does, it gives them revenue. It gives them revenue because they're paid for the session they're doing online for people that are not speaking Arabic. And by doing this, it's sort of empowering those people to go and think beyond and to think that they could maybe with that money start something of an enterprise or start having courses within the camp. So whatever you build it not to make the refugees dependent on your technology, but make it so that it empowers them. And at Techfugees, after 3 years of running hackathons across 25 countries, so I think we are at 55 hackathons by now, we've seen same problems coming, same solutions, but what really makes the difference in technology that is being built is when it empowers the refugees. And we've been able to publish 8 guiding principles of building technology for refugees thanks to that, thanks to those 50 hackathons and seeing those entrepreneurs succeeding, basically. So yes, we're privileged women and we need to, when we do things, not try to save people, even if it's very noble and very well-intentioned, save people but empower them.
By recognizing their skills.
Recognizing their skills, co-creating with them, and as an organization, we are decentralized. It makes it a nightmare to run, but it's so much better because every time a local Techfugees chapter, we call it a hub, comes with new ideas of how to run their program, the way they take initiative is that the local chapter takes responsibility over running the hackathon, takes responsibility over what's coming out of it. And it's much better than being a top-down organization where I would be calling Jordan and be like, guys, can you create a hackathon on this, because I think we need to do this. Gotcha. The guy who runs Techfugees, Jordan, he's an Iraqi refugee. We're time's up.
I actually want to give the audience time for one question, if anybody has one. Go ahead.
Super good question. Basically, I'm out of my notes now. Great. We don't have many women, and so we were frustrated of this, so we created a mentorship program for refugee women. We call it the Fellows, so it doesn't appear as women refugees as an identity. It's 12 women we're following in Paris at the moment. It's a pilot that will spread in Europe. And basically, those 12 women are from very different places, so Africa, Asia, Middle East. And they're former architects, doctors, engineers, can't find a job in France. Why? Their diplomas are not recognized. They don't speak a good French. And so the French are like, nah, she doesn't speak French, she won't understand our culture. I'm French, I can say that. But it's different problems in different cities. If you go to the UK, they'll have different problems. So there's a real problem of seeing them as talented people. And we work on this with those women. And the woman told us, it's the first program we see that is specifically targeted to us that we want to get involved in because it's just for women and it's safe environment. The second thing, it's not looking at us as victims. Because usually a program for women refugees is linked to violence, is linked to rape, but it's not linked to, oh, we see you as a talent, let's help you get employed locally.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your insight with us today.
Thank you.